is Thursday, August 3rd, and today I am 9 days out from my first Jiu-Jitsu competition. So in the last few days, I guess the last week since I last talked to you, I have been pushing nutrition down slightly as my weight has been stalling quite a bit. I mentioned that my weight went up after Dee and I had a free meal last weekend, so like a week and a half ago now, and no regrets at all. It was amazing, but it definitely gave me some insight into how my body is responding these days, whether that's just where I'm at seasonally or where I'm at hormonally or just my age. I don't seem to bounce back from free meals as quickly. Based on my genetic testing from Wild Health, that is in alignment with what my genetic testing revealed, that based on my gene types, I tend to have a more significant response to meals that have a lot of saturated fat and carbohydrates. It's just not very good for me metabolically, and it seems like that is the case with how weight has been sticking. I do think I'm holding some water still, and hormonally I'm in my PMS week, so I'm interested to see, as my period starts within the next few days, what happens with weight, energy, body composition, everything. Typically when we're on our menstrual cycle, we're in a really good place hormonally. It's when we have a hormone panel, I guess, that's more similar to a male's. So lower estrogen, lower progesterone, higher androgen ratio. So that's great, and typically I feel very strong and emotionally stable, energetically stable on weeks that I'm on my period. So I'm really looking forward to that starting, because I definitely hit a wall with PMS this week. So that's something I actually wanted to talk about today. I have been tailoring my training to my goals, which is really important and something I posted about recently. If you have a particular goal, you need to make sure that the actions that you're taking are in alignment with that goal. I think a lot of times people say that they have a goal, but then when you look at what their day-to-day life is like, it's not in alignment with that goal at all. And so it can just foster this sense of frustration and start to degrade someone's self-belief because they don't feel capable of achieving the goal, but in reality, their process just isn't solidified. So my process has been to adjust my approach from week to week, and usually more every few days, so every like 3 days or so, based on how I'm progressing towards the specific goals that I have. Right now, my goal is to, ideally, I would like to drop a couple of pounds. I'm pretty close to my cutoff weight for Jiu-Jitsu. I'm waking up at the weight I would have to be in order to make weight. So I'm hoping to drop a couple of pounds in the next 9 days. Some of that's gonna come with water manipulation, so it definitely will not be body fat, but that's my goal right now. So I'm adjusting my training, I'm adjusting my cardio, I'm adjusting my nutrition based on that goal. After that, I have a midterm goal of, in October, competing again, and I would ideally like to compete in a lower weight class. With that, I would need to drop another 10 pounds perhaps. It just kind of depends on where I actually land once I drop some of this water weight. So we'll see. I'm really interested, but all of my actions are tailored towards that goal. That said, another goal of this phase for me is to work with my body. So for the first time, I'm not just cutting balls to the wall, but I'm learning how to work with my body more intuitively to make these changes. So I'm not using a lot of math to make changes. I'm evaluating how my body responds day to day. I'm considering where I'm at in my hormonal cycle, and I'm respecting my body as much as possible while also pushing it, which is an interesting balance to strike. With that, I have a training schedule that I've been following. So throughout the week, I train 3 days a week. I typically do cardio 3 days a week, and I've recently added in a little bit of running. I'm not a runner by any means, but it's something I want to work on, and not a bad thing to incorporate to increase heart rate up into that zone 3, zone 4 to help with Jiu-Jitsu performance. So throughout the week, I'll train on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Typically pull, legs, push. On Tuesday, I'll do 40 minutes cycling. I'll walk to the gym, 40 minutes cycling, walk back. On Thursday, I'll usually do the same thing. And then on Friday morning, I'll usually go for a 30-minute ruck. And then on Saturday, I'm just now incorporating a little bit of cardio. So probably gonna do a run on Saturday. Sunday, potentially do a ruck. So the weekends are more where I'm playing around with the amount of activity that I'm doing. So this week I was committed to that level of activity. And as I've progressed through the week, I've been tracking my recovery parameters, which for me is my HRV, my resting heart rate. I think subjectively, what are my energy levels? How is my mood? How is my body feeling? Because even if those numbers are good and I feel run down in my body, because of my goal with this phase of honoring my body in the process, I have to pay attention to that as data. And I know my body well enough now that I can recognize when it's true fatigue and not just like mental demotivation. That said, mental demotivation is also an indicator of fatigue or overtraining. So it's really important to take everything into consideration. And this is why I use a check-in sheet to log how I'm feeling, log my patterns, track things like caffeine intake that might be affecting energy levels, track things like sleep, keep an eye on the patterns around my HRV. I've also been wearing a Garmin watch that I just got, and I've also been wearing a Whoop that I just got. So I got both for different reasons. I was really interested in the Garmin because it's a really top-notch fitness tracker. It also tracks your VO2 max, which is something that I want to keep an eye on. And I like that it has a screen, so that's been really cool. But I've heard so many good things about the Whoop, and I've never used one before, and it's fairly inexpensive. You don't pay for the device, you just pay the $30 a month fee for the membership. And it's something that I can slide into a bicep strap, like a compression sleeve, and wear it during jiu-jitsu, which I've really enjoyed because then I can actually track my performance, activity levels, output, heart rate in jiu-jitsu. And it's the only fitness tracker I found that's really good at doing that besides a chest strap, which isn't super comfortable. So I've been wearing everything, and an Oura ring, which I've been wearing for a few years, and just kind of comparing the data. And it's not always in alignment with each other, which is super interesting and something I'm learning more about and will be happy to make a video on if you're trying to decide what fitness tracker to use. But it's been really interesting to track my data a little bit more closely and really see how my body's responding. What I've noticed over this week is that, one, subjectively, I feel pretty run down. After a couple of hard days of training, Monday training, and then Tuesday, quite a bit of cardio, and my first long run, which for me was 10 minutes, but it's long for me. I felt really tired on Wednesday, yesterday, and to be honest, I didn't honor it. I didn't feel like going to the gym, which for me usually is a sign of overtraining because I usually always want to go to the gym. And I felt really agitated in my nervous system. I could tell my nervous system wasn't recovered. Now looking at my numbers, my HRV was good, my resting heart rate was good, my sleep was consistent, but I could feel that I wasn't recovered. Well, I decided to push myself anyway because I'm riding that line of being just under 2 weeks out and wanting to really dig in and knowing next week will be a deload week. And I didn't really honor my body. At first I was disappointed about this because it is a big goal of this phase for me to honor my body throughout the process. But I also recognize that if I want to determine what my upper limit is, I'm probably going to have to toe the line and hit that point of overtraining. Today, looking at my data, I can see that everything's trending downward. My sleep quality is decreasing, my HRV is decreasing, my respiratory rate is increasing. So all of these things indicating to me, on top of my subjective level of fatigue, that I'm reaching that point of overtraining. Now, hormonally, that makes a lot of sense. In the week before our periods, we're not hormonally set up to be pushing. It's not a week to be overtraining. It's not a week to be doing extra cardio. It's not a week to be really grinding at work. Or if you're going to do so, you need to be able to pull back in other areas. And for me, it's not a week that I should have been pushing any PRs. And I really did push myself earlier this week, and today I'm feeling the full effects of that. So I had to sacrifice what was my plan, which I have to stress, a plan is important because it gives you guidelines, but a plan is just a blueprint to follow in ideal circumstances. So if everything went according to plan, I would follow this blueprint. But because I'm honoring my body in the process and taking into consideration how I feel subjectively and taking into consideration where I'm at hormonally, I recognize that even though on my schedule, today was supposed to be a cardio day where I would walk to the gym and do 40 minutes on the bike, walk home, run later, I recognized that my body's not in a state to do that. And so I had to go down my schedule today, break out the whiteout, scratch it out, kind of work through my neuroticism and maybe a little bit of anxiety around not being able to train today, because I realized it's my active choice, and if I really want to prioritize my health, I have to do that today and trust that next week, within the next few days when I start my period, I'm going to have all the resources I need. One day of not doing cardio is not going to derail my goals. So even though I'm zoned into a short-term goal, I'm keeping my wide view focus of what all I want to accomplish right now. I committed to honoring my body and attending to my hormones throughout this process, and so that's exactly what I'm going to do. So today I'm pivoting. I decided I will walk to the gym, get in the sauna, walk home, and then later today probably do like an Epsom salt bath. So really just focusing on recovery, break out the massage gun, do some tissue work, stretching, low stress, full recharge, do some reading, mental recharge as well, and really allow today to be a rest day. I will admit I went to Jiu-Jitsu this morning, but I had told myself I will not go to the Jiu-Jitsu if I sleep past it. And I woke up the same time I always do, 5:20 a.m., and decided I would just go and roll really, really light today. And it was perfect. It was a super chill class. I did like one very light roll, and it was exactly what I needed. So I felt like I really met myself in the middle with that, and I'm just proud of myself for honoring what I committed to throughout this process, even though it meant facing a little bit of the anxiety of not being like 100% on plan. And I always tell my clients, like, you have to evaluate the resources you have for the day when you set goals for the day. You might have every intention of being 100% gung-ho, rigid, balls to the wall, on plan, and you might wake up after a really bad night of sleep and have to pivot. But it's that objectivity that allows us to show up as flexible athletes and to sustain progress long-term instead of grinding ourselves into a state of overtraining short-term and then needing an even longer amount of time to recover. So I'm going to take today as a slow day, really focus on recovery, invest in that, and then be able to approach tomorrow based on the resources that I have.
Would be there's no pause there at all. It's immediately made us as attuned to the transcendent, attuned to God speaking through an inanimate object, or well, an animate object, but just a piece of nature
into the body. And what happens is the immune system sees this as a foreign invader and has an immune system response.